Texas Tech, what a year it was for Mike Leach last year. He's already in his 10th year. 11-2 last year, but gone are Graham Harrell, Michael Crabtree, Eric Morris. They bring in Taylor Potts as their new quarterback. Detron Lewis is maintained, and Baron Batch, the running back.
Well, one thing, you lose Crabtree, you lose Harrell. That's 90% of your offense. But Detron Lewis is back, 900 yards, 3 touchdowns. Baron Batch, 7 touchdowns rushing, 750 yards. I like Baron Batch. He showed last year he has the skill to take it the distances as well as play running back in the Big 12. He reminds me of a younger Kendall Hunter.
Offensive line loses Luis Vasquez to the draft. Rylan Reed, 2 mainstays on their offensive line, but Brandon Carter, first-team All-League, is a left guard. He should man that O-line.
O-line is still huge. They still have a huge O-line, but all eyes this season will be on Taylor Potts. Can he replace Harrell? I know that's a tall order, but knowing Mike Leach's system, that quarterback should be fine this year.
Well, the losses on defense, Darcel McBath, their leader at safety. Also, they lost Charbonnet and L.A. Reid, with 3 linebackers returned, led by Brian Duncan and senior Marlon Williams.
But the defense gave up 27 points a game, 63% completion percentage. They had an awesome secondary. But you look at they gave up a lot of yards last year. But one thing that was impressive, that they made key stops during games. So yeah, it was a bend but don't break type of defense, but they have to improve overall. And that's the kind of give and take when you have a super high octane offense. The defense may be suspect, but let's just hope that they get that pass rush. I do like the defensive end, McKenna Dixon. You know, he had 9 sacks last season. He's a real good player, so hopefully he can get some pass rush.
A rather soft schedule for them in Lubbock, at Houston, and then they host Rice in New Mexico at a conference. Only 3 Big 12 road games, but 3 of them are against tough teams: Texas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma State.
Big game, September 19th at Texas.
Baylor Bears, Art Briles' first year last year. He returned 16 starters from a 4-8 squad led by, of course, the fast and versatile Robert Griffin as quarterback. Jay Finley is his tailback.
Well, you look at Griffin last year, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had 800 yards rushing with 13 rushing touchdowns. So this is a dynamic playmaker. This guy can read defenses. He makes accurate throws. He's 60% completion percentage. Jay Finley, 800 yards rushing last season. Real good running back. That's a good nucleus for those guys. I have the top receivers return, Kendall Wright and David Geddes. Also with that big offensive line they have down there at Baylor. Even though they may have lost Jason Smith, that O-line is a veteran group, and they might actually be better without Jason Smith.
They bring in 2 tackles from the JUCO level, Marquise Franklin and Danny Watkins. Look out for them. David Geddes, as you mentioned, he's a big, tall target, and Kendall Wright. They also bring in Bryce Petty. He's a decent quarterback to push Griffin for the job.
Oh, there's no pushing Griffin. Griffin has that job as long as he's in Waco.
J.D. Walden, the ASU transfer, is their center. He will man their offensive line. Defensive side of the ball, an underrated bunch led by one of the most underrated linebackers. Get to know him now, Joe Pawlik. 128 tackles and 6 interceptions. First team Big 12. Jordan Lake, the safety, was also first team Big 12. And they bring in a Penn State transfer a couple years ago, defensive tackle Phil Taylor. These are the 3 go-to guys on defense.
Well, they have 3 stars at every level of their defense. Phil Taylor at the defensive tackle, 6'4", 365. Big guy, big nose tackle. He's going to do well in the Big 12. Joe Pawlik is a star linebacker. I like the fact he gets his hands on a lot of picks as well, too. 5 interceptions. You also look at Jordan Lake in the back half. So every level has a star. Now, the problem I have with that pass defense, 67% completion percentage. They have to improve that. Everyone completed passes on Baylor last year. But they're big up front, so they should be able to stop the run.
Out of conference, they're going to open up at Wake Forest. They host UConn. And then in conference, they got Oklahoma State, Nebraska, and Texas at home. And then they travel to Oklahoma, Missouri, and Texas A&M. Art Briles comes over from Houston. You know, he likes to get that explosive offense in, pass here, spread it around. But their defense is underrated, I believe.
Well, the defense is going to have to improve, especially with that schedule. But overall, looking at the schedule top to bottom, I see Baylor winning between 6 to 7 games, which will get them in their first bowl game in a while.
Another team under the radar, that's Mike Sherman's Texas A&M Aggies, the 12th man, led by Jared Johnson. Get to know him. He's a good quarterback. Cyrus Gray, who was a third-team freshman All-American last year, and they bring in a newcomer who could burn, the diminutive Christine Michael. He's a playmaker.
Jared Johnson is one of the best quarterbacks nobody's ever heard of. This guy, 6'5", 230, completed 60% of his passes, 21 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Yes, he has to take down that interception total, but this guy is a big, strong guy that can move. They moved Tannehill to receiver. He was a former quarterback. Tannehill is a big playmaker. It's always good when you move a quarterback to receiver because they understand the game and they know how to get open, so that's a big help. Cyrus Gray, don't sleep on him. Speedy guy. He's going to help out that running game. And you look at, they have a big veteran offensive line. So 10 starters return on offense total. Look for that offense to be explosive this year down in College Station.
One of Johnson's targets will be 6'4" Jeff Fuller, who is a second-team freshman All-American last year. 3 seniors on the offensive line, and their sophomore is Evan Ike, who is a second-team freshman All-American last year. So this team young and experienced, both seniors and some young guys.
Evan Ike is a man.
Pass defense needs to improve. Number 103 in Division I last year. Strong safety Trent Hunter, another freshman All-American they brought in. And they bring in JUCO at cornerback, Coriel Judy.
One thing about that defense, they run a 3-4. They're a little bit undersized for a 3-4. They don't have 3-4 linemen as of yet, but I do like the linebacker Anthony Lewis, 6'2", 254. Big guy. He's aggressive. He should help that. He reminds me of the throwback Texas A&M linebackers of the Wrecking Crew. I like the fact that he plays a game with a nasty attitude. Defensive back, typical A&M corners. They're short, but they're active, they're quick, and they know how to break on the ball.
College Station and Manageable at a conference schedule. They'll get up for games New Mexico, Utah State, UAB, and of course they play Arkansas in Dallas. And then at home in the Big 12, they got Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Baylor, and Texas. Away, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Colorado, and Oklahoma. So manageable, very manageable schedule for Sherman.
In order to get to a bowl game this year, Texas A&M has to improve on that 37 points a game they gave up last year. Otherwise, it's going to be a long year in College Station. But if they can tighten up that defense, the schedule is tailor-made for them to make a run.
That's the South Division preview for the Big 12. For more college conference previews, visit footballgameplan.com/NCAA.